Welcome to the deep dive.
Great to be here.
Today we're getting into a classic source, Boericke's Materia Medica, and we're zooming in on one specific remedy described there. Apocynum cannabinum, Indian hemp.
Right. A really interesting one in this text.
So our plan is to, unpack what Boericke highlights about it, what are its main actions, its key uses, what makes it stand out in this particular source.
Okay. Well, the text kicks off saying its general action is increasing secretions. Think mucous membranes, serous membranes, places lining cavities and organs.
Getting things flowing out then.
Yes, but also, crucially, it says it acts on cellular tissue. And that's where you get that swelling, the edema, or gropsy as the text calls it. And it mentions causing sweat too.
Okay, so it's complex, pushing fluids out in some ways, causing them to build up in tissues in others. Seems like fluid balance is, central.
Absolutely, that's a major theme.
And the source flags something specific, right? A kind of core characteristic.
It does. It highlights a diminished frequency of the pulse, a slow pulse.
A slow pulse that's presented as like a primary signpost.
Exactly. According to Boericke, that slow pulse is a really key thing to look for when considering this remedy.
And this is where the text really paints the picture of its uses. It calls Apocynum one of our most efficient remedies.
Strong words.
And links those actions, the fluid, the tissue swelling, directly to its main job, which is
Gropsy. That's the big one emphasized in the text. Various forms of it.
Thank you.
Well, it specifies fluid in the abdomen, that's the sites, general body swelling, which is the anasarca, even fluid in the chest cavity, hydrothorax.
wow, okay.
And it also explicitly connects dropsy to kidney problems. It calls it renal dropsy.
And these conditions, the dropsy, they aren't just floating free in the description, are they? The text ties them to other pretty serious issues.
Precisely. Especially the heart.
Oh.
It mentions it with heart valve issues, like mitral and tricuspid regurgitation, blood flowing backward. Describes the heart action itself as rapid but feeble, irregular, low blood pressure, essentially.
Signs of significant heart strain.
Yeah, and pulsating neck veins, maybe even cyanosis, that bluish skin tint from poor oxygen. It connects all these signs of poor circulation and heart trouble to the overall state where Apocynum is indicated.
So it's describing a really systemic breakdown affecting heart, kidneys, fluid balance. It also touches on urinary and digestive symptoms that go along with this.
It does. Things like urine suppression, very little output, or strangury, which is painful, difficult urination, tied right into that kidney picture.
Makes sense.
And then there's the digestive upset, often seen with kidney disease like Bright's disease, it notes. Nausea, drowsiness, difficulty breathing, and really excessive vomiting.
Vomiting sounds quite intense in the description.
Oh, yeah. The source says food or water is immediately ejected, which
Yeah.
really emphasizes the severity, alongside that intense thirst you often get with dropsy. It adds a very sort of visceral layer to the state described.
And we can't forget those other unique things, the slow pulse we already talked about,
Right.
and the modalities, conditions that make things worse.
Yes. The source lists aggravation from cold weather, cold drinks, and interestingly, from uncovering the body. These specific triggers are part of the remedy's profile in this text.
So, taking this deep dive, looking just at this source, what does it show you, the listener? It demonstrates how these, historical homeopathic texts weave together these detailed, interconnected pictures.
Yeah, linking basic physiological actions, symptoms across different systems, specific signs like that pulse, even environmental factors. It all comes together.
It's not just take this for dropsy, it's describing a whole state of being.
Exactly, a state where all these different elements converge.
We've seen how Apocynum, as Boericke presents it, is aimed at what the text sees as deep systemic problems, fluid balance, tissue issues, circulation, and that unique pulse rate. The focus seems less on just naming a disease.
And more on the underlying pattern of dysfunction.
Right, which leads us to a final thought based only on what we've read here in Boericke. Given this strong emphasis on core physiological actions, increasing secretions, causing tissue swelling, altering pulse rate, what does this focus on these fundamental body processes, rather than just disease labels, suggest about the philosophy behind how remedies are viewed and used in this particular materia medica?